Hey guys, my name's Khadroth, and today we're going to be going over the new quick card and mighty chain mechanics that the devs have just put into the game with Anniversary 7. Again, I wanted to sort of go over this to give you guys an idea about how it's going to affect your carding choices, and again, sort of ways that you guys can use this to maximum effect. So let's go ahead and take a look. All right, so you guys can see here for one of the campaigns for Anniversary, they decided they were going to change the lead card bonus for quick cards. Again, we had known for a long time that they really wanted to adjust quick. They even touched on that as being one of their goals for their 8th year now in the Famitsu interview with Mr. 2. So you guys can see the old effect was that whenever you led with a quick card, you would get a increased critical star generation rate. Now you still get that, but you also are going to get every card in the chain following it getting basically 20% added crit chance on top of that. So again, this isn't crit damage, it's just crit chance. Again, to illustrate that, they give you a couple pictures here, but this is like saying that if you had a card later in the chain in like the second or the third spot, let's say that that card had 30%. If you put a quick card in front of it, it will now have a 50% chance. So it's the equivalent of taking 10 stars and spreading them evenly to all 5 possible card choices. That's what selecting your quick card first will do. It's literally just going to increase the odds of you critting. In my opinion, this is a nice change. It's not too impactful. In fact, I'm actually going to say that this probably isn't, in the grand scheme of things, going to change too much. You're not going to necessarily still want to lead with a quick card. Why? Because Buster is definitely going to be better for damage. Arts is definitely going to be better for NP gen. So the only way in which you would lead with a quick card now is if you think that that can secure you the crit. So that might be worth it if it would have otherwise failed. Again, you guys should be able to manipulate this. Don't forget, and I'm not telling you to do it, but you could always scuff if you determine that the outcome of your card choices was undesirable. Maybe you didn't get a crit. So you could end up sort of closing down the app, reopening it, coming back to that turn, and then basically saying, all right, let's try it with quick. And that should change things up if you were at that like 80% threshold where you were just barely somehow managing to miss the crit. Again, these sorts of things are a little bit wonky. It will require a little bit more testing in the future, but it is a nice change overall. So, and a lot of these changes that were getting made because the devs said that they wanted to help quick be more effective in the current turn and not so much the later turn. Again, they felt like quick was just something that didn't have immediate payoff. It was instead, playing for time. And that can actually be seen here a little bit with the next change that they're going to make. As you guys can see, the next one up is the quick chain renewal. So this is, again, not just any 3 cards, but 3 quick cards being chosen. The old effect was that it used to gain 10 crit stars when you did this. However, those crit stars only impacted you for the next turn. So again, that's what we're sort of talking about, playing for time. You would choose triple quick whenever you wanted to sort of say, hey, I maybe want to wait and get stars for the next turn where maybe I get my Buster and my Arts cards. That way I'm able to pop off a little bit harder. Rather than saying like, hey, I want it now. Instead, you're trying to make an active choice about saying, well, my damage isn't going to be that good this turn. I will delay and try to make the next turn even better. The only other situation that you would really see it getting used in is when a unit was predominantly favoring quick. Let's say someone like Jack, or maybe they had their NP and maybe their 2 quick cards. You'd fire off that NP. Maybe that gives them the power mod for bonus damage to females, so that was another additional benefit there. But Jack also has the quick up in her kit, and then also as well might have the ability with those 2 other quick cards to be able to loop back and get back to another MP. Doubly so if they already had stars themselves on them. So those were sort of your 2 scenarios where, hey, quick was really good for the unit, or I'm playing for time for the next turn. And again, I think the devs felt like that wasn't that good of a tactical choice for a lot of people, that they wanted quick to be useful now. So again, you guys can see here too, that's also partially why fandom right here is saying that you get critical rate up for the cards drawn next turn. It's technically not true. It's delaying the stars until the next turn and assigning them to those cards. So that is the additional effect. Now what they've done though here is they've said, hey, look, we want to make that a little bit more of a viable choice. We want to make that help out. So instead here, now you're going to make 20 crit stars instead of 10 when you make this choice. That's going to give you even more stars for the next turn. And this is a much better change for units that, again, maybe aren't like Jack and aren't superstar generators, and instead maybe, you know, had a mediocre or honestly not that good star rate. Maybe they're not even a quick oriented unit. Maybe you just get lucky and you get 3 quick cards at a time. Now you have this choice because this is going to help you out a little bit more for the additional turns. So they're making quick better both currently and in the future. So that's kind of what I like to see for this. Is it might be good for the units that couldn't hit the 50 star cap. Maybe you were sitting there annoyingly and only able to generate like 10 stars per turn. Well, the difference between 10 and 20 or 10 and 30 stars is now a little bit better. You're going to have a lot more chances to crit with those 10 extra stars. 30 tends to be about that break point where once you get about 30 stars in a setup, you can really secure a lot of crits over time. So again, this is another really nice change that they made. Next up, we have the new mechanic called the Mighty Chain. And this is an all new chain that you guys can form. Prior to now, you've only ever had 3 of a kind, where you had 3 of the exact same type of card, or 3 from the same unit, being a Brave Chain there. So again, those were your only 2 real options. Everything else was just not a chain. Now though, we have the one of each, the rainbow chain, if you will, is going to be what Mighty Chain is. So any combination of cards that amounts in 1 quick, 1 arts, and 1 buster will form a Mighty Chain. It can be in any order. It does not matter. Again, it can also include your Noble Phantasm cards, but the effects here are significant. The Mighty Chain is actually going to be very strong and probably be a bigger impact to the way you use your cards compared to the earlier quick changes. Again, the devs even ended up saying that that is the reason they designed the Mighty Chain, was partially to get you guys to start using quick more. They felt like the community just wasn't using it too much because it felt like the weaker card, and here you go. This is a good way to incentivize it. So now with that new change to Quick's lead card bonus, we also have another reason to lead with Quick. Well, get this, the Mighty Chain, and predominantly what it does is it's going to combine the effects of all 3 lead cards. So when you guys lead with Buster, you get more damage. When you lead with Arts, you get more MP generation. And when you lead with Quick, you got more Star Gen. Well, now as well on Quick, you also get the crit chance up that applies. But what Mighty Chain is going to do is it's going to combine all 3 of those at the same time. Whenever you form a Mighty Chain, all of your cards are going to get increased damage, increased MP gen, and increased Star Gen and crit chance up. That is really good. In fact, there's even another variant of it that can be the Mighty Brave Chain, which would be, again, 3 different types of cards, but all from the same unit. That can also happen, and again, it's going to be another really strong one. However, there is one little tiny tweak in all of this, and that's going to be that the extra card in the Mighty Brave Chain cannot crit. Therefore, the quick card bonus of providing additional crit chance does not apply to it. It will still generate more stars, it will still deal more damage, and it will still generate more Noble Phantasm, but it will not be able to crit. That hasn't changed. That's always been the case with extra attacks, so just understand. It is a really nice change to the way we card. So how are Mighty Chains going to work, and what are you going to use? All right, so now on screen, you guys should be seeing a graphic where, again, this is going to be a list of some of the possible choices for choosing one of each card type. But this is pre the Mighty Chain changes. And just to kind of show you guys here, we also have the order of damage and the amount that they would do. Again, these are holistic numbers. They're not made with any servant in mind. It's just sort of a rough estimation of how much damage would get done due to modifiers. So again, you guys can see logically each one of these chains would have various effects on the damage. Again, sort of leading with Quick would be if you wanted Star Gen, leading with Arts would be if you wanted MP Gen, and then leading with Buster would be if you wanted damage. So there's some really nice stuff here, and these are sort of common use things. You also have your extra attacks, and again, you guys can see the extra attack here just sort of gets flat added, so you're fine. There's no change there. And then down here, we also, almost as a control, have your triple Quick, triple arts, and triple buster chains. And again, you guys can see basically forming 3 of a kind does have an effect on the extra card. This is something we've known about for a long time. I've talked about it in my carding video. It basically will increase that a little bit. But you guys can see, for instance, say choosing triple quick would still actually be the least damaging out of all the choices, only coming even close to the worst there being ABQ from before. So again, this is another interesting deal here. Triple arts will also do decent damage. It's going to be about 3rd on the list there otherwise if you were to choose it. And triple buster has always been damage king, and it's just not even close. As you guys can see, it's almost an entire 3rd more than the rest of the options. So triple buster, also part of the deal there is that it has a really nice effect on the extra attack there, as again, not only does it get the normal 3 of a kind bonus, but also it gets the flat damage bonus of being triple buster. So there's some really good damage potential in a triple buster deck. But what do you have when you maybe don't have triple buster? Maybe your unit doesn't have the capability to form it. Maybe you just don't get the right cards in the right turn. So it's typically good to know sort of what your other goals are and where the chains land, just in a rough general sense, to kind of get an idea of like, hey, yeah, this is the one I should choose. And again, you guys can see here, this is the sum total of the chains. This is the sum total of if it's a brave chain with the extra attack added. So the graph here is fairly straightforward, but why am I showing you this? Because now on screen, we have the list of these with the mighty chain in effect, and there's some pretty significant differences. So let's take a look. For instance, look right here just at the overall raw damage input. You guys can see this is the before one now, where again, your best overall damage chain would have been BQA. But now if we go to the mighty chain, all of a sudden this is 5th. This is one of the worst choices for damage. So why is that? That's because in the mighty chain, every card gets the lead card bonus. So here's what I want you to think about the mighty chain as. Your lead card is now a rainbow card. And thus, as such, you need to ask yourself, what are my goals for this chain? For instance, if your goal is damage, all of a sudden, QAB becomes the best option. Now, why is that? Because in the order of damage that the cards deal, Quick has always dealt the least, Arts the second most, and Buster the most. And when we talk about your lead card in a mighty chain being a rainbow card, that means that now this Quick card, the worst damaging card, becomes a pseudo Buster card in the sense that it's applying a Buster-like effect to all the lead cards. So basically, as you guys go down a chain, cards get more powerful no matter which card they are. So putting a Buster card 3rd would be great. The only problem is the Buster card lead bonus historically had always been so strong. This is why whenever you get 2 Buster cards, you led with 1 and put the other at the end. But in a case where we're going to be doing 3 different types of cards, BQA had historically been the stronger option. Now instead, it reverses. It's QAB. You're leading with Quick because it's now basically a Buster card. At least it's implying that effect. So you get to take your worst card for damage and still make it like as if it were giving and conferring the bonus of the best damage card. It's still not going to do that much damage itself, but it is going to allow the subsequent cards to get way more bang for their buck. And so as you guys can see now, it's up to 860 there on the Brave chain. If you go back to before, your best option here was BQA at only 836. So already right there, just looking at damage, mighty chains have immediately changed everything. And now again, ask yourself this. If you guys are going to be doing, say, something like Star Gen, maybe that's your goal. What's your best typical choice going to be? And the reason I say typical is because remember, guys, these can change depending on, especially with NP Gen and Star Gen, these can absolutely change depending on a servant's kit and hit counts. So keep in mind that there's definitely some variance in this, but your standard sort of choice, if you wanted to generate the most stars, would have been QAB. Or again, perhaps, like I said, putting the Quick card 3rd, but that just depends on the unit. But now what we see is in a mighty chain, if you wanted the most star gen, your best choice would be ABQ. And the reason for this is Arts is the worst at star gen, so you're putting it first, but it's still acting and conferring the quick card bonus. Buster's your second best, and then Quick is your best. That's going to be your best one for star gen. Your best one for Arts gen is another really weird one. Historically, this would have been something like ABQ that we just circled. That would have been really, really good because the quick card typically, depending on the unit, had a better sort of NP gen rate compared to Buster. But now, instead, we're flipping it again. It's BQA. Your choice that would have been the best for damage prior to the Mighty Chain becomes the best for NP gen. And that's kind of nutty. But the reason for this is, again, because Buster, for most units, is going to have the least chance of generating Noble Phantasm. But it's still acting in this case like an Arts card. Because again, it's Rainbow. It's basically acting like Buster, Arts, and Quick all in one. And that's just because Mighty Chains give you all the lead card bonuses. So taking a look now here too, because again, these are unchanged. These are your triple choice cards. You guys can see that all of a sudden choosing 3 of a kind now due to the Mighty Chain looks a little bit less desirable. In fact, one of our analyses here is that with a Mighty Chain, everything's doing about that 800 plus mark of damage. Before over here, you had a lot in the 700 and even one in the 600 range. So now what we sort of see is the choice here is going to be that you're pretty much always going to want to choose a Mighty Chain if that's the case. The only scenarios in which you weren't are again going to be maybe you can't take advantage of the extra attack, or maybe just your goal, like let's say for triple arts in particular here, is going to be I just really need the like party-wide 20% charge that triple arts can confer. So there's definitely some benefit to that, but I do think you're still going to see that used. Same thing with Buster, where you're still going to definitely see it used for damage purposes. But when your goal is to still somehow generate some stars or some Noble Phantasm, the Mighty Chains are just going to be superior unless you just are hard up for one of those. Again, the reason here is just because they're giving everything. They're giving damage, arts, and stars. So it's really, really a strong and good addition to the system. And this is why I said, I think as a whole, you guys are going to see Mighty Chains are going to have a greater effect on the game than even just the normal Quick Change did. Mighty Chains are going to make quick cards get used far more as a result, because you're going to be including them in every single one of your chains. The key here that I want you guys to understand is, again, that rainbow card lead card concept and figuring out what your goal is for your card choices for that turn. If you can do that, wrapping your head around Mighty Chains, actually pretty simple and easy, and it's a really fun sort of adaptive system, and I love the fact that they've put this in. All right, guys, that's going to be it for me today. I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, let me know what you think about the Mighty Chain and the quick changes below. Also, feel free to ask if you guys got any comments. I know this is a new system. I know it's going to be a little bit confusing for people, but it's still a really fun and intuitive one once you have a grasp of the fundamentals and basics of carding. And if you need help with that, go ahead and check out my video on carding. I'll put it in the description, and you guys can give that one a good watch as well. I'll see you guys for the next video. Have a good day. Peace.